All right, everybody, and welcome back to another video. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Carson. My brother Jackson and I run a virtual land flipping business where we've done over 750 deals over the past 3 years, and we now are developing luxury waterfront properties. So we have over $20 million in luxury real estate that we're developing ourselves. But why I made this video is because I want to teach you guys what a title company is. So whatever you want to do in real estate, whether you want to buy a rental property, whether you want to flip land, whether you want to buy land, whether you want to buy a house and get a mortgage on it, whether you want to flip houses, whatever you're going to do in real estate, you're going to need to use a title company. So there are so many people that ask me this question on my Instagram or on our YouTube and say, hey, what is a title company? What does a title company do in the transaction? How do I explain to a seller what a title company is? So in this video, I'm going to break down all that information so that you don't have that problem anymore, so you don't have that issue anymore, so that when somebody asks you that question, you know exactly how to respond to them because of this video. So I'm going to break it down right away and get into everything. But before we do that, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. I know to keep making these types of videos if you guys are enjoying them and if they're helpful for you guys. So our goal is to teach you as much information as possible on this stuff. So go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel if you're enjoying the videos so we know to keep making them for you guys because we enjoy doing it. So first things first, let's get into what a title company even is, right? So why do we need a title company? What is it and how does it play a role in a real estate transaction, right? So I'll give the example of when we're doing land flipping transactions, okay? So what we're doing is we're getting a piece of land under contract and then selling that contract and piece of land to a home builder. So for example, let's say that we get the seller contract at $30,000 and then we get the buyer contract at $40,000. We then take these two contracts and we email them into a title company, right? So they get both of these contracts, the seller information and the buyer information into the title company. And now what's their job? Their job is to close this property out, transfer over the title smoothly, legally, and efficiently to get it done as quickly as possible, right? So their job is to make sure that the property gets transferred over legally and properly, and they're going to hold all the money in escrow. So when you're speaking to a seller and you're trying to get a property under contract or you're trying to get a deal done and they ask what even is a title company, like who are these people that you're gonna send the money to, how do I know this is legit? So the title company is who's gonna hold the money in escrow. So if I'm the buyer and I'm paying for a property, if I'm paying $40,000 for the property, I don't send the 40 grand directly to the seller. What happens is the initial purchase of sale agreement gets signed, okay, with the seller and the buyer. Those get sent into the title company. Then about 7 to 10 days before the actual closing date, the title company will reach out to you and say, hey, I'm going to mail out the final documents or email them to you. I need them to get signed, notarized, and sent back into me. Signed, notarized, and sent back into me. What's a notary, right? So getting it signed with a notary means going into a bank, going into a UPS, having a remote online notary come online and help walk you through it, or having someone come out to your house to help walk you through it. Someone that's a notary, that's a licensed notary. What this notary does is just confirms that you are who you say you are. You give them your ID, you go ahead and sign up everything, notary does their stamp, and then you mail those papers into the title company. These are the final closing documents. You cannot transfer over a property without the final closing documents that are notarized and sent back, or there could be a cloudy title or something like that or something on the deed. So once these final documents get sent back in, then the buyer wires the funds into the title company, okay? So let's say it's $40,000. I wire the $40,000 into the title company if I'm the buyer. The title company holds the money in escrow, ready to pay out the seller or whoever's in the middle. So if we were the assigner in that, we'd get paid out, 10 grand as the middleman, then 30 grand to the seller. But they wait until they get the final documents back, make sure everything's notarized properly, everything's good to go, and then they go ahead and pay out the seller from the buyer's money, but they handle all that stuff. So they handle the closing process, they handle where the money goes, they handle all of that good stuff. And why do you need one? So back in the day, people didn't have title companies. People didn't use title companies. They would just do it on a handshake. They would just do it on an agreement. They do it on a piece of paper. But today, if you don't go ahead and transfer over the property through a title company, there could be overdue taxes that don't get paid and they get stuck on the new buyer. There could be all these different things. There could be a cloudy title. There could be a lien on the property for $35,000 that you didn't know about. So there's all these types of things that the title company's job is to clear up that information. They make sure there's no judgments on the property. They make sure there's no liens on the property. property, they make sure that overdue taxes get taken care of before the closing so the new buyer doesn't have to deal with it, right? Typically, taxes get prorated. What does that mean? That means that if I'm buying a property in September, the seller is responsible from January to September of that year of the taxes. If the taxes are $500, it'll get subtracted from the payment that they're going to get. Then it gets prorated onto me, so I would be responsible from the closing date, September, and thereon after for the taxes. So that's how the taxes typically go with a closing. And another thing that people ask me all the time is, okay, now I know what a title company is. How the heck do I find one of these title companies, right? Is it easy to find a title company? And the answer is yes. It's so easy to find a title company. All you need to do is wherever the property is, wherever you're having your closing, just look up. For example, if your property is in Tampa, Florida, you look up title companies, Tampa, Florida, and it's going to pull up hundreds of them right there that you can go ahead and give a call and speak to them. And I've had very, very good experiences with all title agents and everybody that's worked at title companies in the past. They've all been very helpful and friendly and nice in helping get the transaction done as quickly as they can. So I love working with title companies, and it's always been great. So yeah, that's how you find one, is you literally just look up anywhere where you're going to go. And if you're doing what my brother and I do, and you're actually flipping land and trying to make money off of it, what you want to do is you want to do one more step. You want to look up assignable friendly title companies, Tampa, okay? Assignable friendly. Or you can just call the title companies and speak to them until one of them says that they will accept an assignment, which most of them do, because they get a lot of business from it, because that's a very common thing nowadays that's growing, is more and more people are doing these assignment type deals that we explain more on this channel if you want to go look more into that. So what are the costs of a title company and who pays them? Does the seller pay them? Do I pay them if I'm flipping a property? Does the buyer pay them? So typically the buyer is going to pay the closing costs. Sometimes it's split between the buyer and the seller. Sometimes as the assigner, we say we'll cover the closing costs. But typically the builder or buyer, whoever's buying the property, is going to cover the closing costs. Is pretty standard with the transactions that we're doing. And then the costs of one actually are, I mean, for more expensive properties, I like to say it's about 2% of the sale. But I mean, when we're doing like a closing for a $20,000 property, it's typically about $700. This pays for the doc stamps, this pays for title insurance, this pays for everything that has to get done, the lien search, all that stuff that the title company has to cover. And again, we have to pay for the title insurance and all that stuff because God forbid anything goes wrong or there's a fraudulent seller or something like that. The title insurance will cover anything that's a mishap. So for example, if we buy a property from a fraudulent seller, the title insurance is responsible for paying everybody out and dealing with the situation. So we've had one situation that we had to deal with title insurance. They ended up paying us out $6,000 and it was no problem and everything worked out smoothly. So the costs of one vary based on how valuable the property is and how expensive the deal is. So that's how you decide who's going to pay for it. Is typically the buyer is going to pay for it or it's a 50-50. But with the deals we're doing, typically the buyer covers the closing costs. Next, what is a HUD statement? So a HUD statement is going to get sent out in the final documents, okay? So a HUD statement shows the seller price, the buyer price, and then the assignment price if you're doing what we do with land flipping. So the assignment price is going to be the middleman, like me. So for example, there's seller A, buyer B, and then assigner. Okay, seller A, buyer B, and assigner. So for example, in that transaction I'm talking about, seller A is at $30,000, buyer B is at $40,000, me as the assigner is getting $10,000. You look on that HUD statement, which I'll pop an example up of a HUD statement here, and you want to make sure that the seller is getting what you promised. So I would make sure that the seller is getting $30,000. Then I would make sure that the buyer is paying $40,000 plus closing costs so I can walk away with my $10,000 clean, and then look in there for the assignment fee to your company name of the $10,000. So you want to verify the seller's getting what you promised, the buyer's paying what was agreed upon, and then you're getting your assignment fee in between. That's all you're paying attention to. But the HUD statement is the final closing statement that you're going to get emailed and sent out right before the closing. You want to confirm and make sure everything is correct. And then, what email am I actually sending to the title company? So when you have a deal ready to go, when you're purchasing a deal, when you're flipping a deal, what email are you going to actually send to title company? So, like I said, with what we do with our land flips, doing this over 750 times, this is the exact email that we send to them. This right here is an example of the exact email that we send to them. It says basically this: hey, this is Carson, I'm doing an assignment for this property. We'd like to get this closed as soon as possible. Then I put seller information, my information to get paid, and the buyer information. Because they're going to reach out to the buyer, make sure they get everything in, they're going to money deposit and whatnot, because the buyer is responsible for all that. Then they're going to make sure that the seller gets all the stuff in that they need to get in and make sure they have all the information from them. And then they're just going to ask you where you want them to send the money to you. So either wire or check, however you want to get paid. It's the best part of the transaction. to be quite honest. And then another thing, people don't know this, a lot of people, which I'm surprised, I guess maybe just because we've been in the industry for so long and it's like all we do, that it's something that's normal in my eyes, is people don't know that you can do these transactions completely virtually. So my brother and I have done deals in about 20 different states. We've never been out to any of these properties that we've flipped. The only 2 properties we've been out to are the ones we're actually ground up developing. And how it works is you don't have to go into the title company. You don't have to go in for the closings. They can email everything and mail out the final documents and do everything virtually. So 99% of the time when we're doing deals, almost 100% of the time, it's all completely virtually. We've done it nationwide. We've done it while we've been in Dubai. We've done it while we've been in Mexico traveling. Like, we've been out of the country closing deals over here in the US because it all happens virtually. The sellers and the buyers don't really even go in for a lot of these closings that we're doing with land, which a lot of people are very surprised to hear that, but it's just normal in my eyes, I guess. But yeah, we do it completely virtually, and a lot of these title companies are used to handling virtual transactions, so it's not weird. It's just a typical thing that's happening nowadays, which is great because as you want to scale your business and do more and more deals, this is very, very helpful for your business, right? And then closing timeframes is the last thing I'm going to talk about, is what's a typical closing timeframe. So what we've experienced and what we've dealt with is every single time that we send that email to the title company, they need anywhere from about 7 to 21 days, but typical average is probably 10 to 14 days. So what is included in that 10 to 14 days? They're doing the lien search, they're doing the title search, they're pulling the deed, making sure that everything's clean, everything's good to go. They're just doing their job, making sure everything else is in order, sending out the final documents, getting everything to close. So it's standard, and be ready to give the title company 2 weeks once you send it in. But again, that's not that bad to get a transaction done. A lot of house transactions and stuff take 30, 60, 90 days. But with land, you know, we've gotten it done as quickly as 3 days before with a title company that we were close with, a property, and closed on it because we really, really wanted to get it done. But standard time frame is going to be about 14 days from sending in an email. So just respect the title company's timeline, and the standard is going to be about 2 weeks with that. But that's kind of the A to Z, long story short, of what is a title company, how do we use them in our business, how can you use them in your business, and how do people use title companies in 2025 in today's day and age. So I hope that this video is helpful for everybody. I hope that this gives a lot of information. Again, if you haven't yet, go ahead and like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe down below. We're posting videos on here almost daily, trying to post as many as we can. So hope you guys are enjoying them. And again, if you are liking them, give it a like, give it a comment. Tell us that you're enjoying them so we know to keep making these videos for you guys so that we can help. But I appreciate everyone that came on here today, and stay tuned for the next one.